They left her among killers. But a human chose compassion over fear. The emergency beacon pierced through the silence of deep space, its distress signal cutting across the void like a desperate cry. Captain Elena Vasquez adjusted her ship's trajectory, her dark eyes scanning the readouts with practiced efficiency. 3 days out from the mining colonies, she hadn't expected to encounter anything but empty space and stellar debris. Unknown vessel, this is the merchant ship Seraphim. Do you require assistance? Elena's voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent 15 years navigating the Outer Rim territories. Static answered her, followed by a weak transmission crackling through interference. This is Dr. Marcus Chen aboard research vessel. Aurora, hull breach, life support failing, please. Elena's hands moved across the controls without hesitation. She'd sworn long ago never to leave anyone stranded in the void. Too many good people had died alone among the stars. Her cargo hold contained medical supplies bound for the frontier worlds. She could spare what was needed. The Aurora drifted, like a broken bird against the backdrop of distant nebulae, its sleek research hull scarred by meteor impacts. Elena maneuvered her ship alongside, magnetic clamps engaging with metallic certainty. Through the airlock's viewport, she caught her first glimpse of the man she was rescuing. Dr. Marcus Chen was younger than his voice had suggested, perhaps 35, with intelligent hazel eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and dark hair disheveled from his ordeal. Blood streaked his temple from where he'd struck something during the impact, but he moved with the careful precision of someone accustomed to working in dangerous conditions. "Thank you," he said, as the airlock cycled open, his voice carrying genuine gratitude mixed with exhaustion. "I thought I was going to die out there." Elena studied him as she led him to her ship's medical bay. Something about his bearing suggested more than just a research scientist. There was a wariness in his movements, a way of checking corners that spoke of someone who'd learned to be careful the hard way. "What were you researching out here?" she asked, running a medical scanner over his injuries. "This sector's been abandoned for months." Marcus hesitated, his eyes meeting hers briefly before looking away. "Xenobiology. I was tracking unusual energy signatures, possible signs of extinct, alien technology." The lie came smoothly, but Elena caught the slight tension in his voice. She'd spent enough time around smugglers, rebels, and refugees to recognize someone carrying secrets. But the frontier had taught her that everyone ran from something, and a man's past was his own business unless it threatened others. "Well, Dr. Chen," she said, sealing the dermal regenerator over his head wound, "you're welcome to passage to New Geneva Station. It'll take us 4 days to reach civilized space." "I can pay," Marcus said quickly. "I have research grants, corporate accounts." Elena waved dismissively. "Keep your money, I don't charge for rescue operations." She gathered her medical supplies, aware of his grateful gaze following her movements. "Get some rest. We'll talk more once you've recovered." As she left him in the medical bay, Elena felt an unexpected flutter of interest. It had been months since she'd had company aboard the Seraphim, and longer since she'd encountered someone who intrigued her. The loneliness of space travel was something she'd accepted long ago, but Marcus Chen's presence seemed to awaken something she'd thought dormant. Marcus watched her go, noting the confident way she moved through her ship, the casual competence with which she'd handled his rescue. Captain Elena Vasquez was beautiful in an understated way. Olive skin, expressive dark eyes, black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. But it was her kindness that struck him most deeply. In his world of corporate espionage and stolen research, genuine compassion had become rare. He touched the sealed wound on his temple, remembering the gentle efficiency of her hands. For 3 years, he'd been running from Nexus Corporation, carrying data that could revolutionize energy production or destroy entire worlds if it fell into the wrong hands. He'd grown accustomed to suspicion, to sleeping with one eye open, to trusting no one. But something about Elena's straightforward nature, her willingness to help without question, made him want to lower his guard. It was a dangerous impulse, one that could get them both killed if Nexus found them. Yet as he settled into the comfortable bed she'd provided, Marcus found himself hoping their journey to New Geneva would take longer than 4 days. Outside the porthole, stars wheeled slowly, past cold and distant, but for the first time in years, Marcus felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's life support systems. Elena found Marcus in her ship's observation lounge the next morning, standing before the vast viewport with a cup of coffee growing, cold in his hands. The nebula they were passing cast shifting patterns of blue and violet light across his face, making him appear almost ethereal against the cosmic backdrop. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, settling into the chair beside him with her own breakfast. "I'm not used to feeling safe enough to sleep deeply," Marcus admitted, then seemed to realize how much that revealed. "Sorry, I don't mean to sound paranoid." Elena studied his profile, noting the tension lines around his eyes. "What kind of research were you really doing out there, Marcus?" He turned to face her, and she saw the internal struggle playing out in his expression. Trust warred with caution, loneliness with self-preservation. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of long-held secrets. "Have you ever heard of zero-point energy extraction?" he asked quietly. Elena frowned. "Theoretical physics isn't my specialty, but I know it's supposed to be impossible. Something about tapping into quantum vacuum fluctuations." "Not impossible," Marcus said. "Just incredibly dangerous. I developed a working prototype 3 years ago while working for Nexus Corporation. It could provide unlimited clean energy, end scarcity, transform civilization itself." He moved closer to her, and Elena caught the scent of his soap, something clean and masculine that made her acutely aware of how long it had been since she'd been this close to anyone. "But the energy extraction creates dimensional instabilities," he continued. "Rifts in space-time that could theoretically tear holes in reality itself. When I tried to warn the board about the risks, they decided I was too much of a liability." Elena's blood chilled. "They tried to kill you." "Twice. The second time they succeeded in killing my research partner." Pain flickered across his features. We were close. I barely escaped with the data." Understanding dawned on Elena like a cold sunrise. "The energy signatures you were tracking. You were testing the prototype." Marcus nodded grimly. "Trying to find a way to make it safe, but Nexus has been hunting me ever since. That meteor shower that damaged my ship? Those weren't meteors." Elena stood abruptly, moving to her ship's console. Her fingers flew across the navigation display, checking their current position and scanning for pursuit. "Are they tracking you now?" "I don't think so. My ship's destruction should have convinced them I'm dead." He joined her at the console, standing close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "But Elena, if they find out I'm alive, they'll kill anyone helping me. I should have told you before." She silenced him with a look. "I've transported rebels, deserters, and refugees, Marcus. I knew you were running from something dangerous the moment I saw you." "This is different," he insisted. "Nexus has unlimited resources, military-grade weapons, no moral constraints. They won't just kill us, they'll make us disappear completely." Elena turned to face him fully, noting how his concern seemed focused more on her safety than his own. Something warm unfurled in her chest at the realization. "Then we make sure they don't find us." Marcus stared at her in amazement. "You're not afraid?" "I'm terrified," Elena admitted. "But I've been running from corporate interest my entire adult life. At least this time I'm running towards something important." The space between them seemed to shrink. Marcus reached out tentatively, his fingers brushing against her cheek. "You don't understand what you're risking for me." "Don't I?" Elena's voice had grown soft, and she found herself leaning into his touch. "Unlimited energy could change everything. End poverty, stop the resource wars, give humanity a real future among the stars." "Or destroy everything," Marcus whispered, but his thumb was tracing gentle circles on her skin. "Then we make sure it doesn't." Elena placed her hand over his, marveling at how right it felt. "But we do it together." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and danger in equal measure. Then the ship's proximity alarms began to wail. Elena sprang to the controls, her training taking Over. 3 ships had dropped out of hyperspace behind them, sleek black vessels with no transponder signatures. Corporate hunters. They found us, Marcus said, his face pale. Elena's hands moved across the controls with practiced efficiency. Maybe. Or maybe they're just scanning every ship in the sector. She looked at him grimly. Either way, we're about to find out how much your life is worth to them. The lead ship opened a communication channel, and a cold, professional voice filled the bridge. Merchant vessel Seraphim, prepare to be boarded for routine inspection. Elena and Marcus exchanged a look that communicated volumes. There was nothing routine about ships this far from any official jurisdiction. Dr. Chen, Elena said formally, I suggest you strap in. We're about to test just how fast this old ship can run. The Seraphim shuddered as Elena pushed the engines beyond their rated capacity, the ship groaning in protest as they dove toward the dense asteroid field surrounding the nearby gas giant. Behind them, the 3 Nexus pursuit vessels followed with predatory patience, their superior technology allowing them to match every desperate maneuver. They're not trying to destroy us, Marcus observed, gripping the co-pilot's chair as another barrage of warning shots lit up space around them. They want me alive. Elena threw the ship into a spiraling dive between 2 massive asteroids, their surfaces coming close enough to scrape paint. For questioning? For the data in my head, Marcus said grimly. The prototype's complete schematics, all my research notes. I memorized everything before destroying the originals. They'll keep me alive until they extract every bit of information. Lead pursuit ship had closed to within firing range, its weapon systems painting the Seraphim with targeting lasers. Elena cursed under her breath, knowing her merchant vessel's shields wouldn't withstand a serious assault. There, Marcus pointed to a cluster of asteroids ahead, their surfaces pocked with cave openings. Those formations look artificial. Possible mining operations? Elena squinted at the scanner readouts. Or smuggler hideouts. Either way, it's better than open space. She angled toward the largest asteroid, its surface honeycombed with tunnels. The pursuit ships fired as they entered the asteroid's shadow, energy blasts lighting up the cavern mouth behind them. Elena killed the engines and initiated silent, running, the Seraphim drifting deeper into the tunnel network on momentum alone. Darkness enveloped them as they penetrated the asteroid's heart. Elena activated minimal lighting, enough to navigate but hopefully insufficient to betray their position to hunting scanners. The tunnel branched ahead, and she chose the left passage purely on instinct. Power signatures suggest this place has been abandoned for years, Marcus whispered, as if speaking normally might somehow alert their pursuers. Whatever mining operation was here, they stripped everything valuable and left. They drifted in silence for several minutes before Elena felt it safe enough to restart minimal engines. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, large enough to hold a dozen ships. Ancient blast marks scored the walls, and broken machinery littered the floor. We'll wait here, Elena decided, settling the ship onto a relatively flat section of cavern floor. Let them think we escaped through another tunnel. With the engines powered down, an intimate silence settled over the ship. Emergency lighting cast everything in a warm amber glow, and Elena became acutely aware that she and Marcus were now truly alone together, hidden in the depths of an abandoned asteroid. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. I've put you in terrible danger. Elena turned to face him, noting how the soft lighting emphasized the strong line of his jaw, the intelligence in his eyes. You didn't put me anywhere. I chose to help you. Why? The question seemed to surprise them both. I mean, beyond basic human decency, you could have dropped me at the nearest station and been done with it. Elena considered her answer carefully. The truth was complicated. Part humanitarian instinct, part loneliness, part growing attraction to this brilliant, haunted man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Because, she said finally, I've spent 15 years watching corporations tear apart everything decent in this galaxy. Maybe it's time someone fought back. Marcus moved closer, and in the dim lighting, Elena could see the conflict in his expression. There's something else I haven't told you. The prototype. It didn't just create dimensional instabilities. During my final test, something came through one of the rifts. Elena's blood chilled. Something. I don't know what to call it. Not matter, not energy, but something that seemed almost aware. It lasted only seconds before the rift collapsed, but those seconds changed everything. What if unlimited energy isn't worth the risk of letting something hostile into our universe? The weight of his confession settled between them. Elena reached out, taking his hands in hers. They were warm and slightly trembling, the hands of a man who'd carried an impossible burden alone for too long. Then we find a way to make it safe, she said simply. Or we find a way to destroy it completely, but we decide together. Marcus stared at her in wonder. You still want to help me? Even knowing what we might be dealing with? Instead of answering with words, Elena closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, flavored, with the desperation of two people finding connection in the midst of chaos. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Elena whispered against his lips. Neither have I, Marcus admitted. I thought I'd lost the ability to trust anyone completely. Their second kiss was deeper, more urgent. Elena found herself pressed against Marcus's chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart, the warmth of his body against hers. When his hands tangled in her hair, she made a soft sound of pleasure that seemed to echo in the cavern around them. They might have continued, lost in each other despite the danger, but the ship's proximity sensors chimed softly. A single blip appeared on the scanner, one of the pursuit ships slowly searching the tunnel network. Elena and Marcus broke apart, both flushed and breathing hard. Without a word, Elena moved to the controls, powering down everything except life support. In the resulting darkness, they could only wait and hope their hiding place remained undiscovered. Marcus found her hand in the darkness, intertwining their fingers. Whatever happens, he whispered, I'm glad it's happening with you. Outside, the hunting ship's searchlight swept past their cavern mouth, and Elena squeezed his hand in response, unable to speak past the emotion threatening to overwhelm her, or damn. 6 hours they waited in the darkness of the abandoned asteroid mine, listening to the subtle vibrations that indicated search ships moving through the tunnel network. Elena and Marcus had settled onto the observation lounge's cushioned bench, her head resting against his shoulder, their hands still intertwined. Tell me about before, Elena whispered during one of the quiet periods. Before Nexus, before the running. What was your life like? Marcus was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of memory. I grew up on Terra Nova, in one of the agricultural domes. My parents were soil engineers. They spent their lives trying to make dead worlds bloom. Elena could hear the smile in his voice, and something warm settled in her chest at this glimpse of the man he'd been before fear and responsibility had carved lines into his face. I was going to follow them into terraforming, he continued, but I kept seeing how energy scarcity limited everything. The dome cities, the agricultural projects, humanity's expansion into space. I thought if I could solve the energy problem, I could give people like my parents unlimited possibilities. Noble goal, Elena murmured, turning slightly so she could see his profile in the faint emergency lighting. Naive goal, Marcus corrected, ruefully. I believe Nexus wanted to help humanity expand and prosper. It took me 3 years to realize they only cared about controlling the flow of resources. Elena's hand found his cheek, tracing the line of his jaw. What changed your mind? Sarah. The name came out rough with old pain. Dr. Sarah Kim, my research partner, and... He hesitated. Your lover. Elena finished gently, surprised by how little jealousy she felt. The dead deserved to be remembered. Yes, she was the one who discovered the dimensional instabilities first. When we tried to report our concerns to the board, they reassigned her to another project. 2 weeks later, her transport exploded during what they called a routine flight. Elena felt him tense with remembered anger. They murdered her to keep her quiet, and they would have murdered me if I hadn't run. Sometimes I wonder if I should have stayed. tried to destroy the research from the inside. Then you would be dead, Elena said firmly. And the knowledge would still exist in their files. Running kept you alive to fight another day. Marcus turned. To face her fully, even in the dim light, she could see the intensity in his gaze. Is that what we're doing? Fighting? Before Elena could answer, the ship's sensors chimed softly. The search vessels were moving away, their energy signatures fading as they headed toward another section of the asteroid field. I think they're giving up, Elena said, moving to check the scanner display. Probably assume we escaped through the far tunnels. How long should we wait? Marcus asked, joining her at the console. Another few hours to be safe. Then we'll need to decide where to go next. Elena pulled up the star charts, noting their options. New Geneva Station is still 3 days away, but those ships will be watching for us there. Marcus studied the display thoughtfully. What about Kepler Station? It's off the main shipping routes run by the Miners Collective. Less corporate, influence, and more sympathetic to people running from the corporations, Elena agreed. Good idea. It'll add 2 days to our journey, but she was interrupted by an urgent chiming from the communications array. Someone was transmitting on an emergency frequency, and the signal was coming from inside the asteroid. Elena exchanged a worried glance with Marcus before cautiously opening the channel. A woman's voice, speaking with a distinct outer rim accent, filled the bridge. Merchant vessel hiding in Cavern 7, this is Captain Santos of the Free Ranger. If you're running from corporate hunters, we can help. Elena hesitated. It could be a trap, but the voice sounded genuine, and anyone hiding in these tunnels was likely in the same situation they were. This is Captain Vasquez, Elena replied carefully. Are you also avoiding unwanted attention? A short laugh came through the speakers. Lady, I've been avoiding corporate attention for 10 years. Saw those Nexus ships chasing you earlier. Anyone they want that badly is probably worth helping. Marcus nodded encouragingly at Elena. Sometimes in the lawless frontier you had to trust other outcasts. Can you meet somewhere safe? Elena asked. Cavern 12, about half a click from your position. I'll light a beacon. 20 minutes later, Elena and Marcus made their way through the asteroid's tunnel network, following the beam of Captain Santos's signal. They found her ship, a heavily modified cargo hauler bristling with defensive weapons, settled in a cavern similar to their own. Captain Maria Santos turned out to be a woman in her 40s with graying hair, weathered features, and the kind of steady gaze that spoke of hard-won experience. She greeted them at her ship's airlock with a plasma rifle in one hand and coffee in the other. Dr. Marcus Chen, she said with obvious recognition. I was wondering when Nexus would finally track you down. Marcus went rigid with surprise. You know who I am? Know who you are, know what you're carrying. Santos gestured for them to follow her into the ship's main cabin. The underground's been watching for you ever since word leaked about your research. There are people who want to help you finish what you started. Elena felt a chill of apprehension. What people? Santos smiled, but there was steel in her expression. People who think unlimited energy should belong to everyone, not just the corporations. People who've been fighting corporate oppression for decades. She activated a holoprojector, and images filled the air above the table. Schematics, star, charts and faces Elena didn't recognize. Welcome to the real resistance, Santos said. And Dr. Chen, we've been waiting for you. Captain Santos's revelation hung in the air like a charged field. Elena felt Marcus tense beside her, his hand instinctively moving toward the concealed data device he carried. How many people know I'm alive? Marcus asked carefully. Maybe 30 spread across a dozen worlds, Santos replied, pouring coffee for all 3 of them. We're not exactly a formal organization, more like a network of people who've lost too, much to corporate greed. Elena studied the images floating above the holoprojector, resistance cells on mining worlds, research stations in hidden systems, and what looked like a secret facility built inside a massive asteroid. What do you want from him? Elena asked, her protective instincts flaring. Santos's weathered face softened slightly. Direct question, direct answer. We want Dr. Chen to complete his research under our protection, then share the technology freely, with every world in the galaxy. And if the dimensional instabilities prove too dangerous, Marcus interjected, then we help you find a way to destroy every trace of the research, Santos said without hesitation. But that's your call to make, Doctor. You're the only one who truly understands what you've created. Elena watched Marcus process this information, noting the conflict playing out in his expression. The burden he'd carried alone for 3 years could finally be shared, but with that sharing came new responsibilities and dangers. There's something else, Santos continued. 3 days ago, we intercepted Nexus Communications. They're planning to test their own version of your prototype. Marcus's coffee cup hit the table with a sharp clink. That's impossible. They don't have the complete equations. They have enough, Santos said grimly. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to power a new class of weapons, dimensional bombs that could tear holes in space-time itself. The implications struck Elena like a physical blow. They could destroy entire star systems. Or worse, Marcus said, his face pale. If they create large enough rifts, they might let through whatever I encountered during my test, something that definitely didn't belong in our universe. Santos leaned forward, her expression intense. Which is why we need you, Doctor. Help us complete the research, find a way to make it safe, and deploy it before Nexus can weaponize it. Elena saw the moment Marcus made his decision. It was there in the straightening of his shoulders, the new determination in his eyes. Where is this research facility? He asked. Santos smiled and manipulated the holoprojector, revealing a massive asteroid. Honeycomb with laboratories and living spaces, Haven Station, hidden in the Vega system completely off any corporate charts. Dr. Sarah Kim's sister runs the physics department there. Marcus's breath caught. Anna? Anna Kim is alive? Very much so, and very interested in completing Sarah's work. She's been developing containment protocols for dimensional energy for the past 2 years. Elena felt something twist in her chest. Not jealousy exactly, but an awareness that Marcus's world was about to become much larger than their shared cabin aboard the Seraphim. What about my ship? Elena asked. My life? I can't just disappear into a hidden research station. Santos studied her with thoughtful eyes. We could use a good pilot, Captain Vasquez. Someone to run supplies, transport personnel, coordinate with other resistance cells. The pay isn't great, but the cause is worthwhile. Elena looked at Marcus, trying to read his expression. Was he hoping she'd join him, or would her presence complicate his reunion with his former partner's sister? Elena, Marcus said softly, turning to face her fully. I know this isn't what you signed up for when you rescued me. If you want to drop me at Haven Station and continue your own life, I'll understand. There it was, the choice she'd been avoiding since their first kiss in the darkness. Return to her solitary existence running cargo between frontier worlds, or dive headfirst into a rebellion that could either save humanity or destroy it. Will you want me there? She asked, surprising herself with the vulnerability in her voice. Marcus's answer was immediate and certain. I want you everywhere. This work, this cause, it means nothing without someone to share it with. Elena felt warmth bloom in her chest, spreading through her entire body. It had been so long since anyone had needed her for more than her ship and her skills. Then I guess I'm joining the resistance, she said, earning a brilliant smile from Marcus and an approving nod from Santos. Excellent, Santos said, deactivating the holoprojector. We'll travel together to Haven Station. Safety in numbers, and I can help with any Nexus patrols we encounter. As they prepared for departure, Elena found herself standing with Marcus in the observation lounge of the Seraphim, watching Santos's ship maneuver into formation beside them. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked, slipping his arms around her from behind. Elena leaned back against his chest, feeling the solid warmth of him, the rightness of being held like this. I'm sure about you, she said. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. Marcus pressed a kiss to the top of her head. I love you, he said quietly, as if the words had surprised him. Elena turned in his arms, studying his face in the starlight, streaming through the viewport. I love you too, she replied, meaning it completely. Their kiss was interrupted by Santos's voice over the comm system. Lovebirds, we've got company. 3 more Nexus ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Elena and Marcus broke apart, both grinning despite the danger. Ready to run again? Elena asked. As long as it's with you, Marcus replied. They headed for the bridge together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next.